And we are back with more on News Talk Saga 960. Mark Petrone with you. So very glad you could join us on this edition of the Mark Petrone Show. Well, Elon Musk, I got to put this up. Elon, I mean, to me, he's doing what I would do if I was a mega billionaire and I could buy a toy like Twitter. He's having a lot of fun with it. The guy is a tweeting machine. I mean, anybody who figured that he was going to buy this company and then maybe, I don't know, lay back a little bit, wait a while before going nuclear on these lefty psychopaths and these anti-free trade or anti-free speech zealots. I mean, wow, he's not waiting at all. He is going after these guys, and it's a beautiful thing to see. It's driving CNN nuts. It's driving the lefties at MSNBC crazy, and they are just in a tizzy over the quote unquote dangers of having a guy like Elon Musk controlling Twitter. And so, who better to talk about this than our friend Daniel Bordman over at the National Telegraph, who's our media go-to guy on all things related to Musk. Daniel, welcome to the show. What do you think about this? The guy is using Twitter as, frankly, a club to beat the hell out of the lefties, and I can't tell you how much fun this is to see.
I love it. He's buying Twitter and using it for the exact purpose he stated, which is there's problems here and it's unequal. And listen, no one on like the right is like, yay, I can hate speech now on Twitter. But like there are certain things where it's like, okay, misgendering, being like you can't have your opinions on gender theory or all that be on Twitter. Like, okay, those are the more legitimate ones, but it's more like he's like, I'm going to take all the worst people in the world, all these cry bullies, I think, which is a great phrase, like the cry bullies who scream, unfairness and then, bully you and threaten you and have institutional power. Well, he's taking it to them. Like he's been our great offender, not so much defender, because he's taken this and he's hammering the Washington Post. He's hammering MSNBC. He's just hammering all these people making lies. And the reason he bought Twitter was to take it out of the hands of these, far left control freaks. And they're throwing a hissy fit and they're proving exactly why Elon Musk was needed to come take their favorite toy away.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're going to listen to part of the rants that we've been seeing. This tweet earlier, CNN's David Zurowick, dangerous with Elon Musk buying Twitter. We need to look to Europe. You need regulation. You cannot let these guys control the discourse in this country. We're headed to hell. They're going to hell anyway, as far as I'm concerned. We are there. Trump opened the gates of hell, and now they're chasing us down. These guys are afraid. They are terrified of Elon Musk taking control. But let's listen to this clip now as this guy, who's a media, I guess, a professor, talking on CNN, warning people that this cannot be allowed to stand. Let's listen.
No, I think there's a bigger problem that when we focus on the personalities of people like Elon Musk and people say, oh, I think Elon's thinking this or that. There's a bigger problem here about how we are going to control the channels of communication in this country.
Okay, in 1920, let's deal with that right there. Controlling the channels of communication in this country. Before he goes any further, I mean, talk about saying the quiet part out loud. These people are obsessed with control. I mean, they see nothing wrong with that.
So, I mean, the obvious one is, okay, so Elon Musk now makes you afraid of Twitter has to be regulated. But when it was owned by, BlackRock and the Saudi royal family and the current regime, Twitter was totally fine, right? There's no problems with Twitter before this. But since someone who doesn't 100% agree with you buys Twitter, well, now we have to regulate it. And, you see, the need for regulation only arises post Elon Musk. And then he says the quiet part out loud, which is we need to control the channels of information flow in the country, which is what the far left and now the moderate left and now the standard establishment left believes about freedom of speech is, yes, freedom of speech, good, but only in, it's only government and private companies should really be doing the most to censor free speech in favor of leftist establishment politics. However, what you saw there is they said it, like their desire is the control of information. They don't want you to see the Hunter Biden laptop story. They don't want you to focus on Jeffrey Epstein for a while. They want you to Ukraine, COVID, Ukraine, be mad at Elon Musk. That's what they want. And they see a slight threat to their institutional power here, and they're lashing out. And they think it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is. Except these guys are deadly serious when they say they can't allow the channels of communication to be out of their control. And it shows kind of a level of hysteria that makes you wonder how vulnerable they are. Let's listen a little bit more to what this guy, Zerowick, David Zerowick, says about this. So he's a professor of media studies at Goucher College. Let's listen.
27, we had the Radio Act. 1934, the Communications Act. Congress stepped in. We made rules. FCC wasn't great, but it's still regulating the broadcast industry. You can't use vulgar language. You can't do all these things with speech.
Okay, so all of a sudden, vulgar language is an issue on the internet. I mean, you can go on any show. I mean, try watching 10 minutes of I don't know, some series watching Ozark, watching Ruth.
Yeah, I mean,
use
the answer there
drop
though is
an
like
F-bomb every 10 seconds. I mean,
well, I think you just hit it sort of hits a nerve. Or I think you pointed out a major flaw in him. Well, he's saying, well, we have the FCC regulating all this. You can't use vulgar language. And it's true, which is why CBS, NBC, ABC make such terrible content. And you have all these streaming services that started making good content in HBO because it bypassed all the FCC requirements. So his argument here is like, oh, the FCC isn't great. But yes, because you put the government in charge of what you can see and the quality goes down, which allowed for news services to come out and overtake them with higher quality, less government controlled stuff. So what does he want?
Okay.
I mean, he clearly
Why
wants
don't you just go to another platform though? At the end of the day, you don't like Twitter. Nobody forces anybody to go on Twitter. In the 20s or something, you had radio, very few places to go. You didn't have a whole lot of options here if you wanted content. So yeah, I guess they had to regulate to make sure that people weren't saying certain things. And then TV came along. He's had a couple of channels. So yeah, regulation was justified. But the internet is unbelievably massive. If you don't like Twitter because of something you see on Twitter or some language or whatever, you can go somewhere else. No, this guy says, no, you have to regulate the internet. And all of a sudden these leftists are the uptight ones, can't handle language on the internet. I mean, go someplace else. It's just stunning this guy using that as an excuse to impose regulation, which is, and by the way, Daniel, they're all singing from the same charts, same songbook, Obama. And now you hear Obama talking about regulating the internet. And then you see blackface in Canada talking about it. And you realize that these guys must be, sharing talking points and narratives. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, the EU's also on a censorship push. I will ask, I'll put this question to you and your audience, because you just brought up the go somewhere else. What do you think the leftist Twitter that they start, like, the right-hand Parler and then Getter, what's the name of the new leftist Twitter? My vote is on pronouns, right? Just all about pronouns all the time.
Yeah. Protect safe space. I don't know. Is that
safe
too
space
much?
Is a good one.
Safe space, whatever. I mean, they call it whatever they want. See, they thought that Twitter was their safe space, though. This is the thing, right? Up to now, they've had control. I mean, they've had a censorship. You want to call it poobar? A lady whose job was to basically censor the internet and make sure that guys like me didn't get too big a footprint, which is why I've been ghost banned for years now. But she's a lady who makes $17 million for imposing censorship, for making sure that certain narratives, certain lines of thought were not given as big a footprint as others. And so hopefully she's going to be one of the first ones to be shown the door as soon as Elon takes over. But let's listen to the rest of this guy's soundbite here. Once again, this is David Zerowick on CNN talking to Mr. Potato Head, Brian Stelter.
We gave over our what amounts to our airwaves or our internet waves to Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. And we are in so much trouble because those guys believe in making money. We've already seen that with the 20.
What a shock. Those guys believe in making money. I don't think that's why Musk. I mean, if Musk wanted to make money, why would he be buying a money-losing platform like Twitter if it was all about cash? But, I don't think he minds that a guy like Zuckerberg, he just threw Zuckerberg in there because he had to go after Musk. And he couldn't justify going after Musk without going after Zuckerberg. And by the way, while you're at it, why don't you go back after Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, which has moved very far left. So you've got this guy now, all of a sudden, up to now, things were fine. You didn't hear him say a peep. But now that Musk has gone in there, and Musk's attitude is, we need more freedom, not less on the internet. Now this guy's choosing to, freak out. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. It's selective outrage. He's just going after Musk. He's throwing Facebook in there because they have this now thing that they have to pretend that Facebook is a right-wing institution because conservative publications do better on Facebook than liberal ones. These people are more interested in reading what the National Telegraph has to say than what the government printed CBC News has to say. And that's somehow Mark Zuckerberg's fault. Even though they have depressed conservative outlets, we still do better than left-wing outlets on Facebook. So yeah, it's pure selective outrage. He's throwing a temper tantrum. They said the quiet part out loud. They're losing narrative control. This isn't about safety. This is about control. They want to set the narrative. And they're scared that they're going to lose Twitter, which is a big part of the public discourse. And so it's the new Ukraine. So everyone stop paying attention to Ukraine right now and get mad at Elon Musk.
Yeah, and so now they've also appointed this deranged Stalinist as thought police to try and regulate the internet. I guess they're looking up here at Canada and going, well, they're going to do it. We need to do it as well. I mean, it wouldn't really work if Canada did it on its own, though. People would just say, yeah, you know what, whatever. We're going to just ignore you. Let's listen to a little bit more about what this guy had to say.
2016 election and Zuckerberg, when he was taking rubles for ads from Russia and say, oh, I think it's crazy to think they had any influence on this election. Musk is the same. Musk doesn't want it. He's a.
Okay, so this guy's saying that the 2016 election was stolen by Russia, but no mention of the 2020 election, in which Joe Biden allegedly got more votes than anybody in the history of the United States. Let's listen a little bit more.
Yeah, upset with the SEC, tried to, how dare they question him? You know what I'm saying? This is dangerous. We can't think anymore in this country. We don't have people, no, I'm serious. We don't have people in Congress who can make regulations that can make it work. I think we can look to the Western countries in Europe for how they are trying to limit it. But you need controls on this. You need regulation. You cannot let these guys control discourse in this country, or we are headed to hell.
Because they've had the controls up to now. And if the other side has controls, if freedom-loving people have controls, well, that's just not going to cut it. This guy's a lunatic, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, I would even say Elon Musk isn't my side. He's just not on the left-wing side. Like, let's not pretend that Elon Musk is a right-winger by any cause.
Not. I agree.
Right? He's the disaffected liberal who sees that the far left is insane. But why, conservatives are excited about this is because we just want a level playing field. That's all we really want. We just want equal rules. Same rules apply to me and to Rosemary Barden. That's kind of what we're asking for, and I think that's what people see.
Is she still on Twitter? I mean, I don't follow her, but I noticed that I haven't seen anything from her. So maybe she's serious about getting out. I didn't think that was going to happen because, I mean, as a mouthpiece for blackface, I figured that she would have to stay on. She wouldn't have any choice in the matter, that the order would be coming down from on high, that you have to, I need your voice to his master's voice has to be on Twitter.
Oh, she's still on Twitter. She's retweeting other people today. So either, I just checked it out. She's on here herself. Okay. She put out tweets yesterday. Thanks for watching our show. Retweeting Chantal Herbert. She's still doing some Trudeau propaganda. Yeah, so don't worry. She is still a minister of propaganda for Captain Blackface.
Well, this latest story here, all's well that's Orwell. Musk tosses tactical nukes at the Ministry of Truth, as I mentioned earlier. That's what the Biden
Department of
Disinformation
now,
yeah, exactly. So that's what they want to use, and obviously that seems to be a move aimed at trying to prevent Musk from carrying the narrative too much. I guess they figure, well, if Musk is going to buy Twitter, then we're just going to regulate the crap out of the internet, or at least we're trying to, no matter that it runs completely counter to the First Amendment, which is that no government should make any law that runs counter to people's ability to speak. I mean, obviously, it's not the way it's written, but essentially that's what it says, that Americans have a right to express their opinions.
Yeah, and this kind of, again, blows a big argument in what the left has been saying, going back years on Twitter, where, when conservatives make a free speech argument, the left would get on their technicality high horse and say, ha, 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 you're so stupid. You don't understand free speech, because the free speech and First Amendment only applies to the government, right? The Twitter isn't the government. It's a private company. It can do whatever it wants, right? Whereas the argument was, and this is the argument Elon Musk made, is that Twitter, being an American company that hosts a lot of political discourse, should abide by the ethos of free speech, which means like take a more lenient approach on it. So now that they've lost that, right? Because what the left has always wanted to do is not have the government instill the regulations on the people, but have governments bully corporations into corporations instituting laws that are antithetical to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, or the Constitution. So now that they've lost that sort of corporate middleman, where they'd have a CEO in Twitter a month ago who would, let's depress free speech and boost up pronoun talk or whatever it is, right? Now they've lost that. So they're just immediately saying, okay, well, if we can't force the corporations to do it, well, then we're just going to the government, going to have to do it directly. So they've sort of proven us right that when we were saying, okay, the government's just trying to bully corporations into taking down the First Amendment, and this runs counter to the ethos. And they're saying, oh, technicality, you can let corporations do it. You don't like Twitter, use your own Twitter. Well, now that Twitter isn't in the control of someone who would be willing to do the government's dirty work, well, now they're openly advocating for the government to stop, basically, okay, end the First Amendment. Government, get in there. So again, this is another mask-off moment, this whole Department of Disinformation, and it proves everything that we've been saying right, and it kind of proves that a lot of the left-wing counter-arguments to what we have been saying are incredibly bad faith, and how always have been.
This is quite the rant here. This was on NBC, basically saying,
it's easy in America,
saying basically that Republicans are Nazis.
By the way, I should say that this man used to work for Qatari state media, Mehdi Hassan. He was a propagandist for Al Jazeera, which is Qatar state media. Which, if someone who used to take a paycheck from the Qatari government is going to call people out on neo-Nazism, I think it would be quite interesting to look at Al Jazeera, not the English one, Al Jazeera Arabic, and see what they think of the Jewish people and their solution to the existence of Jews. So yeah. I'll preface this clip with Mehdi Hassan's background as a former propagandist for Qatar.
Yeah, I've been through this with Al Jazeera when I was at the CRTC, and they licensed it, and they tried to distinguish English from the Arabic service. You know what? Give me a break. If you think you can get away with something on the Arabic side, and we're supposed to buy in with the English side, then you have to figure that one eventually is going to dominate the other, and the radical extremist side is always going to win in a case like that. But let's listen.
It's easy in American discourse to talk simplistically about the far left and the far right as two equally dangerous fringe blocks. Elon Musk has done it plenty of times just in the past week. But here's the difference. America's far left wants to give us free healthcare and free childcare. America's far right wants to give us white supremacy and no democracy.
Okay, so there you go. So forget the fact that the far left wants censorship, that the far left has pushed these ridiculous mandates like they have in Canada, for instance, where you can't fly unless you're vaccinated. They're the ones pushing tyranny, is the far left. I mean, I'm not saying that the far left, to me, Nazis are far left. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument.
Right.
National Socialist. You could also.
This guy's playing games.
I mean, he's playing games. The great irony to this clip, though, is he just did it there. This clip is entirely, he'll mention it later, in response to a meme Elon Musk put out about the left pushing the Overton window in politics over the last 20 years. And he's going to criticize that meme. The irony is, what he just did in the clip you listened to, this is a complete assault on the Overton window, right? The far left just wants free healthcare. It's not Antifa out there smashing windows, and the far right wants to institute white supremacy and democracy. So this is a key, right? It says anyone to the left of me, the literal Nazis, and they hate democracy, whereas my radicals just want free healthcare and childcare. Like, what an assault on
On
the liberty
logic.
window.
No, what a great point.
Yeah.
It's the far left that has been indulged in absolute violence that we've seen from the likes of Antifa and BLM. Those are, Marxists, basically. And they've been cheered on by the Democrats. I mean, when you see riots, you see protests by BLM, what was Justin Trudeau's reaction? Go over there and take a knee. You think he once came out to even deign to meet up with the trucker convoy? No, because BLM wants more government control, wants to take a wrecking ball to the country, and the truckers wanted freedom and to get the government off their back. So let's listen a little bit more to what this, I don't know what to describe this guy as, but he's way out there.
And this asymmetrical polarization of US politics would be laughable if it weren't so horrifying. We are living through an unspeakably dangerous moment. The pro-QAnon, pro-neo-Nazi faction of the Republican Party is poised
So
to...
you know what it is? Because he's got a British accent, I guess this guy claims to be more, I don't know, respected. Having a British accent tends to make you sound like you know what you're talking about. Well, this guy's completely out to lunch. So he's saying that there's a neo-Nazi wing of the GOP. I've never seen it. What, like Ted Cruz? I mean, these people want less government control over our lives. How is that dangerous? And the fact that this guy would say, well, the far left, they're all, rainbows and unicorns. They just want to give you free stuff. Yeah, right. At what price? Jailing their critics? Completely ending free speech? Ending free and fair elections, which they may have already done.
Hey, if everyone knows nothing, then everyone's equal. So
let's listen a little bit more to this. I want to subject you to the little bit more pain. Let's listen.
Expand dramatically come the midterms. We're just 2 years away from Donald Trump very possibly re-seizing executive power.
Re-seizing. So he wouldn't have been elected like he was in 2016. No. Or, he'd be seizing it. If a Republican wins, well, they're not really winning an election. They're seizing it. As if Russia collusion was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, when in fact it was proven to be a complete and utter hoax. I mean, everything that's coming out of this guy's mouth is a lie.
If that happens, we may look back on this past week as a pivotal moment when a petulant and not so bright billionaire.
Petulant and not so bright. Well, you know what? He is a billionaire. He managed to start a company. He managed to become the richest man in the world. But apparently, according to this guy, he's not very bright.
Casually bought one of the world's most influential messaging.
He casually spent $44 billion on Twitter. This guy's a nut.
What a boss.
What a loon.
Casually
do you believe this guy? And that's the best that the left can throw at this whole debate. Here's a guy with a British accent. He must be credible.
Yeah, let's line up Mehdi Hassan to accuse everyone of being a neo-Nazi. And again, it's what I said. It's the accusation of the far left, that the meme that Musk put out is basically they're going so far left and they accuse anyone to the right of them as flippantly being neo-Nazis. And this is a problem, especially that on Twitter currently is, it's the old everyone who disagrees with me is Hitler. Well, then bring in Mehdi Hassan to have this ultra brain take that, everyone who is in favor of Elon Musk doing this is a neo-Nazi, in fact. So these people just have no perspective. They keep proving their critics right. They have no shame because then they just keep going and going and going. But the good thing is, with Elon Musk owning Twitter now and drawing some attention to it, I think these people are getting exposed at a much higher rate. Looks like shadow banning is tamped down for now on Twitter.
I don't know about that. I think it was for a little while. But then Mike Lindell was back on Twitter, the bed sheet guy and the pillow guy. And then all of a sudden, boom, he was gone again.
Well, I think it wasn't actually his account. I think someone started a fake.
I think there's something going on inside Twitter. It's like, oh, yeah, think you're going to take us over? You think you're going to bring back speech? You think you're going to, relieve us of the, they're like right to the very end here. You have to throw me out of here bodily. These people are psychotic,
You will
Daniel.
pry my narrative from my cold dead hands.
Yeah, this is exactly right. You will pry my censorship from my cold dead hands. Love that from Charlton Heston with his gun thing. But I don't know how this ends. But all I could say is, go Elon, go. He's acting like a guy who's got, whatever, more money than he'll ever need, stashed away in a million different sources. So he doesn't care. There's nothing you can do to him. And it's like, yeah, so what? Who are you? You're a little fly speck. You're just a mouthy little leftist on MSNBC and CNN, where nobody watches you anyway. So you get on Twitter. So this is the irony of it, right? They say they hate Twitter. They fear Twitter now. They fear more freedom. But that they go on Twitter and they post their crap because nobody's watching them on TV.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you point out. So, I mean, they can complain all they want. They're still here. Like, you hate this party. Well, you can leave. Right? That was my favorite thing of like Brian Stelter. Like, imagine you get invited to a party and there's no rules and it's like, sounds like a pretty fun college party to me. I don't know. It looks like Brian Stelter, like never, I don't think I'd be taking him to a party. Now it's not like he's pretending it was like The Purge where everyone's just like murdering, but it's like, yeah, this is a a college party where there's underage drinking in the States. Some 20-year-olds are getting, oh no. It's like, I just love it. Continue to expose themselves. Elon will expose them, then they'll expose themselves. Then he'll get in fights with AOC on Twitter and troll her. It's a great world we're living in. I'm not sure if like we all entered the simultaneous coma in 2016 when Trump won, and now we're looking at the more interesting universe that could have been. But keep it going. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were mentioning the CBC earlier, who I guess said they were warning people that there could be a human rights problem associated with Elon Musk taking over Twitter. Well, here they are saying that the Canadian government data shows that young adults lag other age groups in getting boosted. About 35% of people between 18 and 29% have received. So here they are chastising younger Canadians for making the decision not to get their shots, and they're having a hissy fit over it. But where are they posting it? They're not posting it on Getter. You know, they may have, I don't know if they have a Facebook page or what, but here they are right on Twitter. So these people may talk about the dangers of Twitter from a human rights vantage point, being taken over, seized, as it were, by Elon Musk. But here they are posting their crap. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was, I mean, how is it that some of these huge news organizations, and I'm talking about like, say, CTV, they got like 1.4 million followers, and you go on there and their stories can't draw flies in terms of likes and retweets. Like, I'm talking about, like, it was funny that I mentioned that, because all of a sudden then I saw a post of CTV that had like dozens of retweets and likes, almost like they said, yeah, we're being embarrassed here. Well, how do you explain something like CTV with all these followers that can't draw flies in terms of a response from online Twitter followers of theirs?
So here's an explanation that hopefully sheds some light. There's a couple factors in what they get. So CTV and Global and all the major media outlets, when you first sign up a Twitter account, if you suggest you're interested in news or politics or whatever, they're one of the suggested things. So because they have large followings and their news things, like they're a suggested follow to a lot of people. So you follow them. Also, a lot of people sort of do naturally follow them because they're like, oh, I'll get the news on Twitter. Like, I follow them. I hate all those organizations, but I follow them. So you have a lot of people like me who then like follow not to support, but follow to, just monitor. And if you notice, a lot of the most engaged with CBC and CTV articles are ones where people get in and engage to yell at them and say you got it wrong, right? So getting quote tweeted happens to them a lot, like, where they post something insane and then you quote tweet it saying, look at this nonsense, right? So that's their highest engagement, is often on people just yelling at them or highly clickbait things. The other thing is they don't really know how to, write for social media and Twitter. So like, here's,
is it possible that their content just sucks? I mean, look, here's the thing. Okay,
that's the other thing.
I mean, here's a story that they posted. Okay, this was an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how data collected in BC will be used to combat systemic racism in the province. Systemic racism. So they got 11 comments. They got 6 retweets. This is an hour ago, and 3 likes. So they got almost twice as many comments as they got likes, which makes me think, and this happens a lot, they get a lot more comments. Isn't that usually an indicator that people are telling CTV to take a hike? So sure enough, you go into their comments and they're all like, in this case, please let us in so we can be victims of systemic racism and white supremacy. So people are ripping this story. So that's why they have more comments, consistently have more comments than they do likes. But I realize this is the sort of thing that you see on, you talk about social media and Twitter and all this kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I think it's just a reflection of the fact that people think their stories suck. So they're not going to like them. Now, they may rip CTV in the form of comments. I mean, here's another one here. Feds invest $1 billion to retool the Stellantis plants to make more electric vehicles. 12 comments, 6 retweets, 13 likes. So clearly, I think most people don't like these stories. And if that wasn't the case, you'd see a heck of a lot more retweets and likes, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, they're not interesting. They're not well-written stories. They're not about things that people really care about. They're just pushing out the narrative. So it's interesting because these when they're on TV, right? You can just push out your stories on TV, and it's like, this is what we care about. This is what the mainstream media talks about. You can get Global, CTV, or CBC. They'll all tell you the same thing. Which anchor do you like telling them these stories? But you learn that these aren't really the stories people care about, because when you give people the option of what to read and engage with, well, that's when you go to Twitter and Facebook and social media, where it's the alternative media stories that do a lot better. Like, National
you guys, when you guys tweet stuff out, or Ezra does, or True North, they get hundreds, thousands of likes and retweets. But here it is, CTV, which has 1.4 million followers. Here's another story 2 hours ago. Trump faces biggest test of his kingmaker clout since leaving White House. So obviously it's another smear against Trump. 15 comments, 2 retweets, 3 likes. I mean, what does that tell you?
That is
okay. So then you look at the comments and you go, isn't there any other news you can cover? Why so anti-Trump? These are people saying, can't you find something else, something better to report on? The best part about being Canadian is if another war erupted in Europe, watching it and counting the dead. That's a weird one. But my point is, nobody is engaging with this news organization and their tweets, and I don't. I'm trying to figure out why, and I appreciate your analysis on that, but I keep coming back to the fact that their content sucks, and they're letting them know it online.
Yeah, and they can't compete when on Twitter there's other interesting stories you can engage with, opposed to their standard television shtick, where it's like you have four different networks going to tell you the exact same thing. Which one do you like best? So they can survive in that environment and then get taxpayer funded, whatever, and kickbacks from the government for, taking American sitcoms and putting them on their shows and calling it Canadian content, whatever the hell they do. But when it comes to, the internet, when they have to compete with a wide variety of opinions, they can't do it because, as you said, their content sucks. Boring.
Sure. It does. And they're losing viewership as well, which looks good on them as well. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. Anytime.
Daniel Bordman, check out his content on the National Telegraph, where he continues to write stories. All right, that's the National Telegraph. Is it the nationaltelegraph.com? Nationaltelegraph.com. That's where you can find Daniel's work. All right, we're going to take a brief time out, commercial break. Back with more on Newstalk Saga 960 and the Mark Petroni Show after this.